Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks very much for joining us and happy Earth Day. I'm Mayor Jonathan Coté, and I'd first like to begin by acknowledging that we are gathered here today on the unceded traditional territory of the Halkidimi-speaking Coast Salish people. Indigenous people have been living on these lands for generations, and the stewardship of this planet is obviously an issue very connected to them in the past, but very much into the future. Now, joining me this evening for our conversation about environmental initiatives at the City of New Westminster is Erika Maschig, who is our Parks and Open Space Planning, Design and Construction, and Leah Berra, who is our Manager of Climate Action. So thank you very much, Erika and Leah, for joining us here this evening. Now, tonight, we are going to encourage folks that are watching to be able to ask questions either through Facebook live stream or using the Q&A feature on the Zoom webinar. You can also vote up questions or use the like questions if you'd really like to see those questions asked. Now, as we celebrate Earth Day today, I'm reminded that here at the city, we think about our actions about how they affect the environment every day, not just today. Certainly, environmental consciousness has been a longstanding policy issue at the City of New Westminster, but I think even more so with the issues with climate change, it has to be front and center in all the work we do. In March of 2019, City Council declared a state of climate emergency and brought forward 7 bold steps to address climate change. The 7 steps include the first one being a carbon-free corporation. This one really speaks to how do we make sure how we operate as a city, do it in a climate-friendly way, and reduce the emissions that we as a city create. The second one is a car-light community, and through our work through our master transportation plan, we have very bold targets to move 60% of all trips in the city to more sustainable modes of transportation, like walking, transit, cycling, by 2030. Next to transportation, one of the biggest greenhouse gas emitters is heating home buildings. So having carbon-free homes in buildings is our third bold step. The fourth one is pollution-free vehicles, and I think here we recognize that the shift to electric vehicles provides a huge opportunity to reduce our carbon footprint via transportation, and how as we as city can make that transition as easy and as smooth as possible. The fifth bold step is our carbon-free energy, and in New Westminster, we're fortunate to have our own electrical utility, which does gives us some interesting opportunities to look at different ways to ensure the electrification of our city and different sources of energy. We already have the very successful solar garden project, and I think these are the types of examples we can bring more carbon-free energy to the City of New Westminster. The sixth bold step is our robust urban forest, and New Westminster's urban forest canopy. We've set some bold targets to increase to 27% by 2030 to help support the removal of over 4,000 tons of carbon pollution every year. So this is an ambitious target, but one that we think is incredibly important in the city. And the final bold step is the quality, people-centered public realm. We really want to be able to connect people to their community, to their natural environments and their spaces. And I think by reimagining how we as a city work and people can integrate with that, we think that's how we connect people to the broader vision of a climate-friendly community. So I'd now like to ask Erika Maschig, our Manager of Parks and Open Spaces Planning, to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about your role at the City of New Westminster.
Thank you, Mayor Coté, and good evening, everyone. It's a real privilege to be here and participate in this discussion on Earth Day. My name is Erika Maschig, and I'm the Manager of Parks and Open Space Planning, Design and Construction with the Parks and Recreation Department. Part of my role at the city is to manage a team that's leading the implementation of the city's urban forest management strategy, which is very directly linked to the bold step number 6, which Mayor Coté just described as growing a robust urban forest. So put very simply, the strategy and the bold step number 6 really target the ongoing care and protection of our existing trees throughout our city, but also the planting of new trees to increase our overall tree canopy cover from 18% to 27% by 2030. Protecting and growing healthy, mature trees in an urban environment is quite challenging, but increasingly important as climate change and adaptation strategies are top of mind for our city, as well as cities everywhere.
Okay, thanks, Erica. So in terms of your job, what gets you most excited about the work you do, particularly as it relates to climate change?
Good question. Well, the vision of us planting trees today and how they'll transform neighborhoods over the next 10 to 20 years certainly excites me, and thinking about our contribution to building a resilient city. But I would describe my real kind of satisfaction with my work and my team's work is that we're not only contributing to climate change adaptation for our city, but we're also doing our part to contribute to the goals and targets of the region. So really thinking about that regional scale.
Okay, thank you. So we're now going to move over to Leah, who is our manager of climate action at the city. And I'm wondering, Leah, if you could introduce yourself and your role in the city.
Sure. Hi, everyone, and thank you for having me here today. So I'm Leah Barra. I'm the manager of climate action with the city, and I've been in this role since February of 2020. So in my role, what I'm really tasked to do is help the city actualize our climate action ambitions, ensuring that we're on track to meet our greenhouse gas emission reduction goals, both in our corporation and in the community.
Okay, wonderful. And similar to my question to Erica, what gets you most excited about the work you're doing?
Oh, I really love this job. I really love working in the field of climate action. There are so many aspects I can speak to, but I'll stick to the highlights. So climate change is an emergency, and that's not a highlight in a good way, but it's a reality. And there is no single course of action that we can take to respond to it. And there's no single person that can go at it alone. So we really need to act fast. We need to innovate. We need to keep learning. And taking action on climate change really affects our city operations, and it affects our community. And I really get to work with everybody. I get to learn from everybody and pull all these pieces together. So I kind of see it like I'm a puzzle master of sorts. Everybody is taking on all these different pieces, and I get to try to put them all together to see the big picture and to identify if we have gaps, if we have other opportunities, and how we can work together to fill those. And it's that kind of revealing that collective impact of all these small actions that really gets me excited.
Well, thank you. Well, your role at the city is a relatively new position at the City of New Westminster, but I think given our priority and interest related to climate change, it's absolutely necessary to be able to have that coordination for all the areas as part of the city. Now, we're incredibly proud of the 7 bold steps, and council is certainly very enthusiastic to that work. How are you using the 7 bold steps to help kind of shape the climate action planning here at the city?
So I think the 7 bold steps really, again, are helping put that puzzle together. It's a framework where each of the bold steps really forms a section of that puzzle and puts that big picture. This framework creates a narrative for future-oriented discussions, both internally and with the public. It can be and has been woven into our budgeting process and other government processes, and it really tries to break down the climate emergency into something that is, it takes it from being something that is quite viewed as complex or abstract, and it really turns it into something that is more tangible with actions and a broader vision that we can all kind of relate to. So in some ways, it's really quite simple, but what it does is it's given people, both staff and public, the sense of not standing on the sidelines of a climate emergency, but they can see themselves interacting with it and really contributing to the city's climate goals and targets. So having that framework helps us sort of ground and root all of our actions that we're taking and puts it in a certain place so that we can kind of organize our thoughts, and it makes everything less overwhelming, really. It helps us focus and really just focus on the actions that we need to take as we march along in our planning process. And it gives us a place to put in new actions and new innovations and new strategies as this world of responding to the climate emergency continues to evolve.
Yeah, no, thank you. So, so I do want to know folks that are watching on Facebook Live or on the Zoom meeting. You can ask questions either in the comment section on Facebook or by using the Q&A feature there. We'll be opening up momentarily to ask questions of the panelists there. I think the one final question I want to ask Erika and Leah is, I think sometimes it can actually be a little bit depressing thinking about all the environmental challenges facing facing the planet right now, and sometimes the news doesn't look good, doesn't look encouraging. But I guess I'd like to ask each of you, what gives you hope that that we can turn this around and take the action that I think we need to take?
I'll go first. I would say personally, spring gives me hope. Every time this year the trees leaf out, and it really reminds me how resilient nature is. On a larger scale, I do recognize the bigger picture. Currently, we're in a geological age that is called the Anthropocene, where human activity has been the most dominant influence on climate and environment. And what gives me hope is the school of thinking that the next geological age may be called the Symbiocene. So if we do work together and we do act quickly, the next geological age may be a time where we rebalance the natural environment with the built environment. And that's the future that I like to work towards and think about, and certainly gives me hope.
Well, that's inspiring. Leah?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I've worked in renewable energy and energy conservation for the entirety of my career, and I haven't always been hopeful. I've been challenged, I've been scared, but mostly I've just been determined. But in the last 5 or 7 years, I think I've started to feel a lot more hopeful, and there's probably 2 major factors that have contributed to that. One is working with young people, working with students in various places, education awareness programs and science fairs. And it's just so clear to me that our young people don't need to be convinced that we need to take action on climate change, but they're more energized just to find solutions. Regardless of how soon, we can fight about how many years we have to get to whatever, goalpost or temperature that we need to, keep our global rise to, but they're focused just on finding solutions and being creative and being willing to change and try new things. And that's really inspirational to me. And I think the second factor that I don't think any of us can ignore, and I know Erika had been feeling this as well as we've discussed before, is this pandemic that we're all in right now. And if there's one lesson we can take away from this health emergency, it's that collectively, when we really believe in something, we can adapt, we can change, we can adjust, and we can work together. And it's not easy and it's not comfortable, but we're finding a way through it as a community, as a country, as a planet. And it's disproportionately affected the marginalized in our community and the vulnerable in our community, just like climate change does. So knowing that the world can come together and mobilize and make a difference when we're all sort of marching along on the same path towards the same goal, that's, to me, gives me a lot of hope.
Yeah, well, I think those are really good comments, and I think we do sell ourselves short in terms of what we can accomplish when we do work together, because I think there's lots of times in human history where some pretty amazing things have been done, but it does take that collective action. And I think to that question myself, I think it was near the end of in the fall of 2019 and the big marches that were occurring, and actually just seeing the inspiration with the volumes of particularly younger generations that really were tired of the debate about whether this was a big issue or the top issue. It was no, now is the time to act, and to me, I think that's motivated me. I think climate action has always been a passion of mine, but even just getting it reinforced, saying no, we don't have time to there on this. We need to make concrete action and make it now. So we're now going to open up to questions from folks that are watching today. So I'm going to ask Sophie, who I think is helping coordinate the questions, to let us know what questions have come forward.
Great, thank you, Jonathan. I have a question that came in via email from Matthew, and he has asked, my wife and I just purchased and are restoring a heritage home in New West. Are there any programs to help make it more energy efficient?
Okay, maybe I can pass that to you, to Leah, to take that one on.
Sure. Yeah, Matthew, congratulations. I think there's a few different ways to approach this on your home. There's some Heritage Preservation Society grants that help with our heat rehabilitation piece, and that kind of, it's not so focused on the efficiency side, but it can support that restoration work, and there's work there that will inherently support efficiency. But ultimately, look to the Energy Save New West programs through the City of New Westminster. So through that, we've created some technical bulletins that can help provide some guidance on how to be more energy efficient in your home. We have some other guidelines that we can point to from buildings in Canada that can help homeowners look at ways of implementing energy efficiency measures in heritage buildings in general. And we're ongoing working on updating those technical bulletins, really working with anyone in our Energy Save New West program and reaching out there. We can connect you with several different incentive programs and other renovation programs throughout BC that can also support you with some grant money and technical guidance.
Thank you. So go back to you, Sophie.
Great. We have a question that came in on the webinar here from Jane. How is New Westminster raising awareness of bird mortality and injury from collisions with glass, a significant cause of bird deaths? It's a bit of a two-part question. We'll go there first, and then the second piece was, more specifically, how is New West retrofitting or ensuring new construction integrates bird-friendly design for windows?
Okay, so I think this probably is a development services question, but I guess I'm just wondering whether Erika or Leah. I'll be honest, I actually don't have a lot of background in this particular question, but are either of you able to jump into this one?
I don't have a good answer, but it's a great question, and it's something that we can certainly look into.
Yeah, so I think with that question there, and maybe we can take down your information there to kind of send to our development services department that might might be able to better understand about some of those standards there. But thank you for the question.
We'll head on to a question from Andrew on Facebook. Does New West do a tree or shrubbery evaluation of a property prior to granting a development permit?
So maybe Erika, if you can take this one related to the city's policy.
Absolutely. So the city does have a tree protection and regulation bylaw, and it does protect trees of a certain size on private land and all trees on public land, so city owned. So just in terms of development, certainly within a property, there is an envelope within it that is developable, and of course the city does encourage retention of trees and sometimes even help incentivize the retention of trees in a development. But in the case where a tree does need to be removed, it is measured and there is a permitting process. There is a cost to that. And if a tree is being removed for development, it does have to be replaced with a 2-for-1 ratio. So you need to plant 2 new trees for that 1 tree that you had to remove to complete your construction project. I hope that does answer that question.
Yeah, thanks, Erika.
Okay.
Great. I have another one here from email. This came in from David. Will the new pool make use of any alternative power sources, such as solar energy?
Yeah, so maybe I'll jump in on that one to start. I think as many people have probably noticed, construction has just recently started for the new Aquatic and Community Centre, and I think definitely applying an environmental and climate lens to that project was a very high priority. So the city has for a long time had a LEED Gold standard, and this facility is designed to that, but we really work to try and step up beyond that there. And so the new pool is designed to be electric, which is quite unique in Aquatic Centre, and we'll also have solar panels on the roof there. And I think the net result will actually be a 90% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions compared to the existing facility, even though the new facility is actually going to be much larger than the existing two facilities there. And the Canadian Green Building Council is, I think it's the first aquatic centre in Canada to actually get the zero emissions aquatic centre designation. So certainly that was very much in the forefront in our thinking through the design process, and I'm hoping it can be a pool that really actually can be a model for future aquatic centers and community centers in terms of some of the work we've done.
Great. I'll move on to the next question here. We have Allison on the webinar, and she's shared some of her views about the tree canopy here in New Westminster. She specifically wants to know, what are the plans for a downtown tree canopy?
Yeah, so maybe Erika, you can talk a little bit about our tree planting program. And I know we have increased our city tree planting program. I think the early stages have been focused in the brow of the hill and in Queensborough, but maybe you can talk specifically about that program and maybe how it might integrate in downtown New West, which I think we've always identified as one of the lowest tree canopies in all of the neighborhoods in New Westminster.
That's absolutely correct. So the neighborhoods with the lowest tree canopy cover are Queensborough and the downtown. And the decline in the tree canopy cover does correlate very strongly with a development period in the early 2000s. So our urban forest and our natural areas are, for lack of a better way to describe it, are quite fragmented. And we do have a plan in place for planting new trees, not only in the downtown, but across the city. So it is important to increase the canopy cover within neighborhoods, but also to connect our natural areas through street trees and levels of stratification. So different levels of planting shrubs and trees, and that's really important for habitat value. But specifically to the downtown, again, planting trees in urban environments is challenging, but obviously very doable. It's often, and you'll see as you walk around the downtown, these are trees that are in paved surfaces, and trees in their natural environment don't like to grow in paving. They like to grow with a nutritious forest floor in connection with other trees and shrubs and plants. So New Westminster does have tree planting standards for soil volumes and soil quality. However, we didn't always have these standards. We didn't always know the best way to plant trees. So some of the trees in the downtown do need replacing, and we certainly do need more of them. And we do have I'll just mention a tree planting master plan, which details what I'll call a roadmap for our tree planting through our different neighborhoods. So I'll refer you to that document on our website, because it does give a quite a detailed roadmap for when we'll be planting trees within the next 10 years throughout the downtown.
No, well, I appreciate that, but I appreciate the question as well too. As a fellow resident in downtown New Westminster, it certainly is noticeable the tree canopy is a lot less than in other parts in the city, and I think certainly creating mixed-use, dense neighborhoods do have their positive environmental impact, but I think people are still longing to be connected into communities that have trees in there, and certainly I think there are challenges that we need to put our mind to as we work along that, because I think our focus has always been to say let's really focus on the neighborhoods that are the most underserved with trees with our urban forest plan. So.
Great. We did start a few minutes late here, so if there's any other questions that you have, please do comment on the Facebook page there. We have one more from Facebook from Roseanne. How can we encourage companies to reduce energy waste? Thinking of large buildings with brightly lit empty rooms. She lives behind Douglas College.
Okay, I'm wondering, Leah, if you can take a stab at this question.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it is challenging. Buildings in general are challenging, and existing buildings and behaviors are a big part of that. So, one of the strategies we we intend to kind of pursue, especially working in on the community side, is collaboration, education, awareness, and just kind of addressing and talking about these things that we see or notice around our city. There are a lot of exciting programs that I think even from a provincial level that are coming up to try to improve education awareness and even provide guidance. There's pure waste, as you said, maybe sometimes lights that are being left on, but there's also, behind the walls kind of challenges, retrofits that need to happen as well to help with our building energy consumption. So, I think our initial approach from a city's perspective is really working with some of these different organizations, working with businesses and commercial spaces to understand and identify opportunities where they can look at themselves and try to address some of their energy and emissions. There's a benefit to them operating cost wise as well, and there's a benefit to the planet, and I don't think anyone really wants to be wasting. It's something that we're all trying to get better at.
Well, thank you.
Great. We have another question that came in via email from Chris. My family and I recently bought e-bikes and are enjoying cycling around the city. What are the plans to expand the local cycling network?
Yeah, so maybe I'll start with that question there. First of all, I think New Westminster, I think has always had a bit of challenge with our cycling mode share. Number one, because I think our cycling infrastructure and safe cycling areas is just unfortunately not as high quality as maybe that you would see in the city of Vancouver, and that has an impact. And I think in addition to that, we're also a very hilly city, which I think it just creates another barrier for many folks to engage in that. And I think recent advancements with electric bikes and electric scooters, I think is actually really going to remove one of those big barriers for many folks who for maybe cycling or wheeling was not accessible in a community like New Westminster. So now I actually see is an incredible opportunity to start making some investments in our cycling network. Folks in downtown New Westminster will probably have noticed we've launched our pilot project for the Agnes Street Greenway, connecting through the downtown, and that's going to be a greenway that is slated to seamlessly connect with the new Patella Bridge project and the Central Valley Greenway. So I think that's one of the big cycling projects. But also we're looking at improvements of one of our older but most well used is the Crosstown Greenway, particularly as it goes through the uptown neighborhood, and the city is looking at making some investments there. So as part of the city's master transportation plan, we do have a cycling network, trying to focus on key important routes and really step up our game. But to me, I really think actually now is the time for the city to challenge itself to improve its cycling infrastructure, because I think electric technology is going to start to remove some of the hill barriers, but we still have the challenges. People need safe and comfortable places to cycle, and I think the time is now for the city to really step up its game.
Great. This will be our last question here, and it is from Allison on the webinar. The Downtown Residents Association requested that Albert Crescent Park be officially recognized and protected ages ago. Very little has been done to augment or add natural vegetation or trees there, and it is literally the only remaining green space downtown. So I think the question there is there a plan to protect and enhance Albert Crescent Park?
Maybe Erika, I can pass this question to you.
Yes, you absolutely can. Thank you for that question. And I agree, Albert Crescent is a beautiful park. It has very significant, large, mature trees and incredible views, lovely passive green space. And I would agree with you that we do need a plan, and we need to build that with the community. So in light of that, it is actually included in our 2022 plan for parks to develop a master plan for that park. So we're really looking forward to speaking to the community and getting some great ideas for the future of Albert Crescent Park.
Yeah, so as someone who is very familiar with that park as well, living nearby, I think there's tremendous opportunities. And I think even with the Patella Bridge project, some of the park is actually going to be reclaimed because the on-ramp up to the Patella Bridge won't take up quite as much space as it currently does. So I think there's definitely some opportunities to re-envision and reimagine that space. And I think from my perspective, really focusing on some of the natural elements and opportunities will really big. So Alison, I certainly would encourage you to participate when we begin that planning work and planning process. And I know the Downtown Residents Association will be very much plugged into that conversation. So I think that has brought us to the end of our time this evening. So I do want to thank everyone who's joined us tonight to watch on Earth Day to have a conversation about what we're doing locally and to engage in the issue here. I do want to thank Erika and Leah for taking the time. I think council is certainly really supportive, but and strongly ambitious in terms of our climate work. But the reality is we need really good, strong people at the staff level to help implement that work. And obviously you are two champions within City Hall. So really appreciate you taking the time tonight to talk about your work and engage with the community. Really, the time is now to take bold steps towards protecting our Earth and environment for current and future generations. So with that, I want to thank everyone, and thanks very much for viewing, and happy Earth Day, New Westminster.